You're listening to Hooked on Creek, a podcast celebrating the music, history, and fans of the legendary jam band Max Creek. I am your host, Korre Johnson, and this is episode 65.
First thing in the morning is the last thing on my mind. 6 o'clock is the morning. I gotta get back to that same old grind.
Hello, and welcome back to Hooked on Creek. I've got a question for you. If Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, would it be enough? That question came to me late one night, headphones on, listening to a 1986 show from Bucksteep Manor in Washington, Massachusetts, and I couldn't shake it. So today, I want to sit with that idea. If Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, what kind of life would that be for a music lover? Well, you'd never know the thrill of chasing chart toppers. You wouldn't measure eras by album releases. You wouldn't stand in a sea of thousands watching the music happen from far away. Instead, you'd learn what it feels like when the room is small enough that the music knows you're there. You'd remember the moment a song finally clicked for you, the version that surprised you, the way a unique setlist changed the chemistry of the evening. You'd remember the night a jam went somewhere unexpected and stayed there. Because with Max Creek, the point has never been the destination. It continues to be the willingness to stay inside a moment without demanding it become something else. I think Max Creek teaches us how to listen over time, not just to songs, but to change, to how the same piece of music can carry a different weight depending on who's in the room, what's happening in the world around you, and who you've become since the last time you heard it. And I don't think you fall in love with Max Creek all at once. You grow into it slowly, repeatedly, sometimes without realizing it's happening. And once that happens, you stop needing the music to impress you. You stop needing it to arrive fully formed. You learn to trust that if you stay long enough, something meaningful will reveal itself. But here's something people don't always realize about having such a deep love for just one band. If that band is Max Creek, you'd never be bored. Because this isn't one sound. This isn't one genre. This is a band that can play rock one moment, reggae the next, slide into folk, and then lift off into psychedelic space. All in the same night, sometimes in the same song. If Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, you wouldn't need to browse genres looking for variety. You'd have it all right here. And you'd learn that genre isn't a box, it's a color on the palette, and Max Creek knows how to paint.
Came into port on an evening time, for they sailed from the Golden Coast. With a hope of tea and Indian spice, the captain gave us a dead course.
For most people, Max Creek is discovered through friends, word of mouth, or the local music scene where they live. But for me, it arrived differently. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1,000 miles from Connecticut. There are no Max Creek shows here. No posters in local clubs. No crew of friends who've been going to shows together since the 1980s. When I fell in love with this band, there was no scene pulling me in. Just me, my curiosity, and the music. And it started with a single name, Scott Morawski. I went to see Mike Gordon play at the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee back in 2017. And there was Scott, a guitar player on stage, absolutely killing it. He captured my attention and pulled me into a world that, looking back now, still feels almost impossible to believe. I got home that night, looked up the name Scott Morawski, and everything changed. That's how I found Max Creek. Suddenly, I had decades of music waiting for me, not at a venue, not in a record store, but neatly organized for me on archive.org, waiting. If this was the only band you ever loved, and you love them from a distance, you'll learn a different kind of intimacy. The intimacy of headphones in the basement after the kids are asleep, of a 1993 recording from a venue you've never been to, in a state you've never visited, capturing a moment shared by a couple hundred people you'll never meet, and somehow it still feels like it's for you. You would learn that community doesn't always mean standing shoulder to shoulder. Sometimes it means knowing that somewhere, someone else is listening to the same recording, the same jam out of See It My Way into Devil's Heart, feeling the same lift, the same surprise, connected not by a shared space, but by a shared listening experience.
She knows what time to move. She had no feeling for you. She brings it to you in the still of the night. You can't help it, but there's nothing to do.
If Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, you'd be indebted to the Tapers, the people who showed up night after night, year after year, who lugged equipment through snow and heat, who found the right spot in the room, who set the levels, monitored the sound, and trusted their ears. They weren't there for money. They weren't there for recognition. Most of the time, they weren't even noticed. They were there because they believed the music mattered, because they believed the moment mattered. They learned the rooms, the acoustics, the quirks. They learned when to let a tape roll and when to start fresh. They captured the nights when everything locked in and the nights when the music was still finding its shape. They built the archive slowly, show by show, tape by tape. They captured moments that only existed once and made sure they didn't vanish when the night ended. Because of them, someone like me, 1,000 miles away, decades later, could fall in love with a band I had never seen and I had never even heard of. Without the Tapers, the history of each Max Creek show would live on only as a memory, fading with time. And of course, without the Tapers, there would be no Hooked on Creek. And if Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, you'd witness something most people never get to see, a musical lineage that lives. At a Max Creek show, you'll see people who've been there for decades, now standing next to people who weren't even born when those first shows happened. You'll see the music carried forward from one set of hands to the next. Different ages, different stories, all gathered around the same songs. You wouldn't just have a relationship with the music, you'd have a relationship with time itself. This is what it means to love something for a lifetime, not to freeze it at its peak, but to let it grow, to age alongside you. Because if Max Creek was the only band you ever loved, you wouldn't need the band to stay the same. You'd need them to keep being honest about where they are, because that honesty gives you permission to do the same. You'd hear the urgency of the early years give way to something steadier. The precision and fluidity deepen with time. The need to prove something slowly transforms into the freedom to explore. And if you're really listening, you'd hear your own life in that arc. The version of you that needed the peak and the version of you that now needs the space. Loving one band for a lifetime wouldn't be about asking them to sound young forever. It would be about growing alongside them and recognizing yourself in the change.
Once met a man who showed me clear waters and rivers that ran through my life. And there in the midst of the river stood a tree, the tree of life. Yes, and crystal clear it was, crystal clear it was, crystal clear was my life.
So when I ask, what if Max Creek was the only band you ever loved? Maybe that isn't really a question about only loving one band. Maybe it's a question about how deeply we allow one thing to stay with us. Because the truth is, I don't only listen to Max Creek, and I'm guessing you don't either. But I keep coming back, and that return, that choice to come back matters. It matters because in a world where we can have everything, where every song ever recorded is a click away, choosing to go deep with something is its own kind of freedom. I think about that night at the Pabst Theater, Scott Morawski on stage. I had no idea what door was about to open. And now, years later, I'm still walking through it, still finding rooms I didn't know were there. All right, to wrap up this episode, I'm now going to play a recording of Max Creek performing the song Time live at the Met in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on January 24th, 2026.
Time is slipping by you. Turn around, see where you've been and where you are. Turning your eyes away will save you the day. Someday you will wake and find it gone. And the way you have today will be gone
And that concludes episode 65 of Hooked on Creek. If you're curious, earlier in this episode, you heard clips of Max Creek performing the following songs live. You Write the Book at Bucks Deep Manor in Washington, Massachusetts on May 25th, 1986. Calypso Wind at Camp Creek in Bozrah, Connecticut on September 11th, 2022. Devil's Heart at the Catalyst in Santa Cruz, California on March 21st, 1997. And Crystal Clear at Taurus Ballroom in Hartford, Connecticut on January 8th, 1983. If you have feedback about this episode or suggestions for future episodes, please visit hookedoncreek.com and click the contact link to send me a message. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in.